To our fire department, Technician Roberts.
Hello, Mr. Roberts. My name's Katie. I just moved to Troy and I noticed there are no smoke alarms in my home. And I was wondering if you could give me some advice on how many I would need.
Sure. You'll need one at each level of your home, one in the kitchen, and one for each of the bedrooms. That would be a minimum.
Okay. My house is large. I'm concerned that I might miss a spot, especially since we have young children. Would it be possible for you to come to my home and give some advice on where they should go?
Sure. I have time tomorrow morning. Are you available, let's say, around 10?
That would be perfect.
Sounds great. Have a nice day. Bye now.
Hi.
Hi, you must be Katie?
Yes.
Chuck Roberts, Troy Fire Department.
Oh, glad to meet you in person.
Yeah, well, let's get started.
Absolutely, come in.
So where do you think we should get started?
Well, the number one cause of fires at homes in the U.S. is in the kitchen. I think we should start there.
All right, follow me.
Great. Well, I see you've got a couple already. Now, as I mentioned to you, the number one cause is unattended cooking. That's where you leave a pot on the stove with something in it, you leave the room and forget about it, and that's where most fires start. So we want to definitely have one in this area. But the key is you don't want to have it right above the stove. So when you're entertaining and have a large group of people over, just that normal cooking, incidental type cooking would have a false alarm. So we want to have it in the kitchen, but we want it to move it further away. So you have your stove right here. Do you do most of your cooking right here?
Absolutely.
Okay. So what we'll do is we'll move it a little bit further away. I see you have a nice island here. We'll put it here to the end of the island, right here, kind of in the center part of the kitchen.
Okay.
That way, normal cooking gases will spread out. You won't get that accidental false alarm. And then, but it's still, if you do have a fire, it will activate. So I would say right over here. That way, it'd be easy to get up there and change the smoke alarm when you check your batteries once a year.
Oh, that's excellent.
Great.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right.
So where else do you think we should go?
Well, I was wondering, is that the only smoke alarm you think we need on this level for certain?
For the kitchen is the number one area.
Okay.
And I noticed that you have a large great room over here. Why don't we take a walk over there?
Okay.
Wow, this is a wonderful great room that you have here. And as you mentioned, some other places in the house. Now you have a fireplace,
Yes.
and it'd be a good idea to have it here, but the problem is you have a very large vaulted ceiling. So if we put a smoke detector up there, that would be good, but it's so high up you'd never be able to change the battery. So what we'll do is I notice that it opens up into the second floor stairwell. So that way, if we put one at the top of the stairwell up there, if any smoke comes out of your fireplace, it'll spread out. As we mentioned, it goes up and spreads out. It will activate, and that way you'll be able to hear it. And it's a normal stealing, so you'll be able to change those batteries once a year and hopefully check them once a month. Do you think you guys can do that?
Absolutely.
Great. So why don't we, now that we've done that, we've got one here in the main floor, why don't we go upstairs and we'll talk about the bedrooms?
Okay.
Very important place.
Okay.
After you. Well, here we are up on the landing again. As you can see, we are open to the great room down below. So I would put that smoke alarm basically right here in the center of the ceiling.
Okay.
It does two things. One, if there's a fire on this level of the house, you'll be able to hear it in other areas. Secondly, if it's at night and you're sleeping, since it's at the top of the stairs, again, smoke rises, you'll know very soon that there could be a fire at a lower level of the house, and that way it'll wake your family up before the smoke gets to the bedrooms. So one here would be a great spot too.
Okay.
Great. Let's go to one of the bedrooms.
Sure.
Well, Katie, let me guess. With all the pink and bright colors in there, this must be your daughter's bedroom.
It is.
Well, it's very important that we have one smoke alarm in each of the bedrooms.
Okay.
Now, it doesn't really have to be any place special as long as it's in the center of the room. That way, every individual in every room will know if there's any smoke, that they'll be able to hear it and be able to get out quickly. But another important thing to do is make sure that both your daughters, yourself, and your son, that you keep at night your bedroom doors closed.
Okay.
Now the reason for that is with the bedroom door closed, if there is any smoke out in the hallway and it's heavy, we don't want anybody try to crawl through that. But by keeping that door closed, the smoke alarms will activate you and you'll know that there's smoke out there, but keep it outside in the hallway if it's heavy. And then that way they keep that door closed, and then you can open a window and yell for help. But keeping that door closed is very important. So there is a lot of smoke out there. It won't come into the room and make it difficult for either your daughter or your son or yourselves to get out. So one in each room, and keep that door closed at night.
Okay.
Well, why don't we go to the master suite, and we'll talk a little about CO detectors and where those should go. What do you think?
Absolutely.
Well, Katie, I see that you have a couple of different types of CO alarms. This particular type here is one similar to a smoke alarm, which you would mount on the ceiling.
Okay.
The other one here is you would actually plug it right into a receptacle in the wall. Both of them are fine. But the difference between CO and smoke is that smoke rises. Remember we mentioned that? We won't put it on the ceiling. Carbon monoxide does not rise like smoke does. It just floats through the air. And it comes from either a water heater, a furnace, or perhaps a gas stove which isn't burning properly and emits that CO. Now we want to have them just in the sleeping area. And a lot of people say, well, why not in the kitchen or other places? Because CO, you can't smell it, you can't see it. But if you're awake, like you would be in your living room or in the kitchen, you would start to get those flu-like symptoms, either a headache or a little nausea or disoriented. You'd know that there is something wrong. But if you're sleeping, you would never know that. So that's why we want to have them in just the bedrooms. Maybe put this one in here in yours, and put the other one perhaps down by the kids' bedrooms, or maybe even the landing where the other smoke alarm was. But definitely don't put them in your kitchen or in your furnace room, because even appliances that are working just right, I don't know about you, you're probably a good cook, but whenever I cook spaghetti, I always spill a little bit over and it smokes up a little bit. Well, that might give you a false reading, because that CO spreads evenly through the house. It comes through the air conditioning and the heating ducts, so just in the bedroom. So that way, if you're asleep, you'll know before someone could get, that doesn't feel well, and you'll be able to keep your family safe. Does that sound like a good idea?
Oh, that's great. That's very helpful.
Well, we've covered the CO detectors. We've covered the alarms in the bedrooms, the hallway upstairs, and the main floor in the kitchen. But we've still got a couple other places. Why don't we start with the basement? What do you think? Next place?
Yes, certainly.
Okay, I'll follow you. After you,
Sure.
please.
This way.
Well, here we are in the basement. Now, your basement is a very nicely finished basement where you can watch TV or play with the kids or, entertain company down here. Even if your basement is not finished, you still want to have one down there. So that way, if something happens, people in the other portion of the house will know, or perhaps if you're down here doing laundry, or if there's any smoke, that you'll know. Now, the key is, where do I want to put it? Well, this is the stairway. This is the only way to get up. So we want to make sure that this area is protected the most. So if there's any smoke around here, we need to know it right away. So we would put that smoke detector right here on the ceiling at the bottom of the stairs. That way, wherever you are in this basement, if there's any smoke here, you need to know it. But you wouldn't want to put it way back in the corner, because if the fire's over there, by the time it gets to that smoke detector, there could be a lot of smoke here and it'd make it difficult to get out. So on the ceiling, right at the bottom of the stairs. So that way, if you know that there's any smoke here and you're in the basement, you'll be able to get out. Or if anybody is upstairs, since it's close to in the upper level, they'll be able to hear it better. Okay. Now we've covered again the bedrooms, the kitchen, upstairs area, but let's talk a little bit about your furnace and where your water heater are. Okay. Number 2 cause, followed by open flames. Number 3. I'll show you a couple of things you can do to help keep you safe. Which way would we go?
Oh, it's right around the corner here.
Okay, here we go. Now, basements are important, and especially storage really, because we know we all got too much stuff. And it's okay to have some storage in the area where your furnace and or water heater is at. That's okay. But the key is like you have here, so that we have enough space in between them. The key for furnace room is to make sure that anything that can get hot, whether it's an electric or this is a gas furnace, is far enough away so if something goes wrong here, that it won't get things that can burn. So it's okay to have stuff in your furnace room, but just keep it away all the way around 360 degrees, at least a couple of feet, to make sure that we keep stuff that can burn away from the hot stuff. Okay? Well, why don't we do this? We've pretty much talked about everything, the different parts of the house. Why don't we go back up to the kitchen, and I'll give you a couple more ideas on things to keep your family safe. What do you think?
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, after you. Well, Katie, thank you very much for letting me come into your house and talk about fire safety and that. A couple of important things. Now, all we talked about so far was about smoke alarms. And as we know, they don't put the fire out. And home fire sprinklers are very good. But since you don't have them here, the smoke alarms are good. But what they do is they make sure that you and your family can get out. So in a minute, we're going to talk a little bit about fire escape plans and a meeting spot. But before we do that, I want to mention a couple of quick things. One, it's not a bad idea to put a smoke alarm in your garage, because your car might be overheating, or you might put something hot in the garbage can, and that's a good idea. Secondly, we'll talk about the furnace and your fireplace. You want to make sure that you check your furnace filters regularly, whatever the manufacturer recommends, or once they start to get dirty, because that can keep the flow of air down, and that's not good, or you might have a dust buildup. And your fireplace. Now, I didn't look in yours to see if you use real wood or gas. Either way, whichever, if you use gas or real wood, you want to make sure that before you start that fireplace up in the fall, is that you look up in the chimney, because we have raccoons and possums and birds that would just love to make a nest up there. So you want to make sure that once you start your fire, it gets up clean. And make sure that the flue opens, the damper will open and close freely. So that way, when you start the fire, the smoke can go up. When the fire's out, you bring it down. If you do use natural wood in your fireplace, you want to make sure that you use seasoned firewood and not fresh wood, green wood, we call green wood, because that could build up creosote, which could be a problem. If you use wood at all for your fireplace, you need to have it checked at least once a year. So let's talk about your escape plan. The escape plan is to make sure that all your family members know that all the ways out, you have a way to get out through the garage. There's a door to the outside. You could go out the back door into the backyard or the front yard. Make sure that everyone knows that they want to go out to the front door and there's smoke, that they can go out the back door, or vice versa, out the garage. But the key is to make sure that whatever door they go out, they meet around at the front of the house. Because that way, your kids are old enough now that they can make their way around, but if they go out the back, they know how to come around the front, so your family's safe. And when we get there, the most important thing we need to know is that everybody's out of the house and safe. And we'll go out for a minute and we'll talk about where would be a good spot for your meeting place. But if you have any of your friends or neighbors that maybe their house is set up a little bit differently, or perhaps they have some other issues, maybe older adults, or maybe somebody that has special needs, why don't you have them call the fire department, and that way we'll be more than happy to answer any of their questions that they have.
Oh, I will. This has been very helpful.
Thanks. Well, let's go out to the front of your house and we'll pick a meeting spot for you.
Okay, sounds
Great.
good.
Lead the way. Well, Katie, we're out in the front of your house now, and we're going to talk about that last item, that all-important meeting spot. And again, the key is now, you happen to have a tree right here in your front yard, and that's perfect. So whatever door your family members go out, the side door, the back door, or the front door, they'll know to go to that tree, whatever day or night it is. But now your friends may say, well, Katie, I don't have a big tree in my front yard. That's okay. Or perhaps they live in one of the really nice condominiums or apartments here in Troy. On the sidewalk is good in front of their house, or perhaps they just generally in the front yards. And it doesn't have to be any specific place, but just in the front yard it's good. Because the most important thing is to make sure that your family's safe. And when the fire department gets here, we'll know exactly what to do. Boy, we sure talked about a lot of stuff today. It's a lot to remember.
I know. I'm glad you were able to come out.
Well, and we're glad to do that. That's one of the services. So if you have any of your friends that have questions, tell them, hey, give us a call. We'll be more than happy to answer the questions. If we can't figure it out over the phone, we'll come to your house, just like we did here today, and help you out. Again, thanks, Katie, so much for being a great citizen and keeping your family safe.
I appreciate it.
You bet.